There we go. I fixed it.
Yay.
It went down for a second. Anyway, it's got a lot in common with other Ubisoft games in that there's a lot of icons on the map and a lot of stuff to do. Um, I'm about 4 or 5 hours into playing the actual game, and I still don't know what a lot of it does, but it seems a little less overwhelming than something like Assassin's Creed. Um, and it seems like there's a lot of cool content there. You can totally play through the whole game without buying extra ships if you want to. Buying the extra pilots and ships and stuff is kind of more for peripheral stuff that's just kind of fun to engage with. It's not really needed to see the story through. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like if No Man's Sky had been kind of handmade and a little more, a little less procedural, a little more bespoke, I guess. But otherwise, and it has pretty solid combat. The elemental stuff is really fun. Combining different elements is cool. Lots of nice touches. And then there's the thing I like the most about it is the the way you build the ship on your mount actually matters. So it's not just clip a ship on, clip guns on it. It's like you can combine different wings from different ships. You can put them on in different configurations. So like you could take the R wing even and flip the wings around so that they're pointed forward, and then that's how the ship will look in the game. It actually has it can read the direction that things are facing. There's no reason to do it, but if you put a gun on backwards, it will shoot backwards when you pull that trigger, which again has no. I can't imagine why you would want to do that, but it's kind of cool that it works like that. So there's a lot of neat little things like that. I think there's a lot to the game that I haven't seen yet, and I'm kind of looking forward to sort of playing it slowly and collecting some toys here and there as I go. But the ship designs are really cool too, and the characters are very Saturday morning cartoon in a fun way. So I think it's as long as you are okay with that kind of aesthetic, you'll be into it. But the game that I am
Wait.
what?
So okay, is there a limit to how many things you can attach to a ship?
Yes.
Okay. So it's like you can attach like a wing on each side and then like a gun on each side.
So I haven't actually tried attaching wings to the gun attachment points. So all of the attachment points are the same plug. So
Okay.
like in theory you could stick a wing on the mount, but I don't think it would do anything. I haven't tried it. I think you need to start with a fuselage,
Mhm.
and then from there you need to connect a wing to either. Well, no, that's not true. You can connect weapons directly to the fuselage, and then you have this goofy looking like center of a ship with guns on either side of it. That's
Yeah.
kind of funny,
Yeah.
but some of the stats of the ship are tied to the wings, so you want to
Uh-huh.
put the wings on. From there, I don't know if you can add more wings. I
Mhm.
haven't tried that, but
I thought I saw something about there being like an asymmetric configuration, like two wings on one side and then one wing on the other, and that like a or like a X-wing type wing on one side and then like just like a flat single wing
you could do
on one
that
side,
because you can mix and match the wings from different ships for sure.
and then it like affected the ship, like
Yes, it does do
physics.
that. Yeah, it affects your weight and your handling based on how you set the wings up. So I don't think it's like a sim model or anything, but it does
Mm-hmm.
it does cause the ship to handle a little bit differently. If I have any criticisms of the game, it's that the way that it handles death is kind of brutal. When you die, you can either put another ship fuselage on the mount or go back to a checkpoint, and the checkpoints are kind of rough. They're usually before you they're usually like in orbit wherever you got into shit. So
Mm.
like if you're in a big boss battle on the surface of a planet, you have to then fly from the orbit back down to where the boss is and fight him again.
Oh, oh, okay. I thought you were gonna say like you have to fly back down to the planet and do the whole level again, and then
Yeah, I mean there's not really that kind of a thing. It doesn't really have
okay.
levels like that. It's all very much in the open world pretty much all the time. Um,
Mhm.
but I think the most surprising thing about the game is that there's actually a lot of stuff to do, and the open world is like well designed and fun to get around and diverse, and the combat actually is a lot of fun. The controls are really good and it feels good to play, which is the thing that I think is maybe the most surprising thing about the game. The toy part always looked pretty cool, but the fact that it's actually backed up by a good game is pretty neat.
Yeah. Do they have like daily, weekly challenges like games
No,
as a service stuff?
they do not. Well, at least not on Switch. I mean, I don't know if that's a limitation of the Switch platform, but they don't have that on Switch. It that's if anything, that's the one thing that I don't like structurally about it. I don't know if it's necessarily actually bad, but so like it's actually fairly tough on normal difficulty. I wouldn't call it an easy game, but the way that your ships level up is the ships themselves do not level up. There are slots on your ships and weapons that you put like different mods in that are actually very cool. They're like loot. So they're pretty neat because they'll do things that actually change, like as simple as change the fire rate all the way up to like this causes a frost explosion when you crit after you've hit with a vortex weapon. Um, but then each pilot model has a skill tree that they level up through, but they can only level up. They level up kind of with ships. So like Fox can only get 6 skill points out of the R-wing fuselage, and he can only get 3 skill points out of each weapon. So if all you buy is the base game, you're not going to be able to get more than 12 skill points with the base model. So it kind of encourages you, if you really want to fill out their skill trees, to pick up more ships to like diversify. I don't think you really need to do that to get through the game. I think that's more of a like if you want to engage with the higher end stuff. So because of that, as someone who's fine with the idea of buying a few more ships, like it's not that expensive compared to a lot of Toys to Life games. Um, I kind of like there's no new game plus mode, and it kind of bums me out because I almost would like to play through it on normal and then have the option of new game plusing it on a higher difficulty. Instead, I could start back at 0 and play on the hardest difficulty. But I would really like to see them add some way for you to be able to play through the game once and then play through it again with your pilots already leveled up. And I'm pretty positive that the progress of your characters is tied to the save game, not to the model like in Skylanders. In Skylanders, your character's level is tied to the model, but I think in this game it's tied to your save game. I'm pretty sure if you started a new game, my Fox wouldn't have the levels he has.
So you couldn't like does it have like split screen multiplayer or same
It
screen
does.
multiplayer?
It does have a co-op. I haven't tried it, but it does have, but only digitally. The way that it works with licensing is like if I boot the game up with a Pro controller or without the Joy-Cons in the controller mount, it'll launch me into digital mode where I have all of my content I've purchased physically, but I control what I have equipped by a menu system. And if you buy stuff digitally, you have it digitally forever. But if you buy, like I bought one extra physical ship, the stuff in the starter pack you have digitally forever as well. But I bought an extra physical ship, so that comes with one pilot, one ship, and one weapon. So I have to mount that physically to the mount every week to like renew the content license. But if I'm playing it with just 2 Joy-Cons out of a mount or a Pro controller, then I'm playing it digitally. So I'm not sure how the co-op works because it's played with 2 Joy-Cons. Like each person takes a Joy-Con, which doesn't really make a lot of sense to me anyway because like it must be that it's the way that they message it must just be weird, and it must be that you need 2 more Joy-Cons because it's a dual stick game. Like you couldn't play it with just a sideways Joy-Con, I don't think. So I'm not really sure how the co-op works, but it is there supposedly.
Maybe
Interesting.
it's Splatoon motion controls.
Ugh, I hope not. That wouldn't work very well for this game, I don't think.
I'm using tilt control. Yeah, is there tilt controls?
No.
Or like on the if you're using like you can't be like
No. My biggest disappointment about it, which is like this is not very, it's not that big of a deal. But my biggest disappointment is that I wish that the controller mount worked with Pro controllers. I don't like that I have to play with Joy-Cons. I wish that they had made like a clip-on for the Pro controller. But whatever. That's like, that is what it is.
Yeah. All right. So your other game.
Yeah. So other game. I've been playing. I've played probably 4 hours now of Lucas Pope's new game, Return of the Obra Dinn. So, Lucas Pope is a developer of Papers, Please, along with other games like Republic Times and several other pretty excellent game jam titles. Has everybody played Papers, Please here?
Yes.
Yes.
I love Papers, Please.
I played some of Papers, Please.
Okay, I didn't finish Papers, Please either, but I did like what I played a lot.
Yeah, I did not finish, but
Oh,
yeah,
I finished. Yay.
So I think Papers, Please is a great game, and I think it was an incredibly important game. I think it was a game that kind of set a tone for a certain kind of indie game development in a way that like hadn't really been done before. Not that games hadn't been political before, but like it sort of feels like it launched a wave of socially conscious and aware indie games in a sense. So when I sort of characterize Oberdin like I'm about to, I don't want to seem like I'm taking anything away from Papers, Please, because I'm not necessarily saying that I think this game is better or worse than Papers, Please. The thing about Papers, Please that I never got over was the strength of its concept. It's like such a unique game and such a like once in a lifetime kind of game that always sort of overwhelmed for me what the game was trying to say and actually be mechanically. So I kind of like it was always that like, oh, this is wild because it's a document thriller. That's wild. And it was always sort of that was the thing that kept me coming back to it. So I say that because Return of the Oberdin is also incredibly unique, and I've never played anything like it before. But I spent about an hour kind of marveling at the concept of what it was. But now at this point, despite it being such an incredible, unique concept, I am so invested in the story and what's happening in it that it feels like it's transcended its concept in a way that Papers, Please never really did for me. And for that, I think it's just like I can't really speak highly enough about it in the context of like what it is. It's just a fascinating game that I really think anyone who likes mysteries or puzzles or adventure should really check out. Do you guys have like a idea of what the game is about or like what it is mechanically?
Vaguely. I've been vaguely interested in it because I do love Papers, Please, but I haven't really gotten into it much more than the really unique aesthetic and that it's on a ship and you're solving mysteries.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think we can hear you, Andre.
Oh, it looks like a hidden picture book. I'm just getting it from this video on the page that we're watching. But
so it's definitely a logic puzzle at its core. That's kind of what you could boil it down to if you wanted to. But within that, like the idea, the basic premise is, and I'll be very careful to not spoil anything for anyone because there is a lot you could spoil about this game. But the basic premise is that you're an insurance claims adjuster, and that this ship, the Oberdin, that launched at the beginning of the 18th or 19th century, has mysteriously reappeared with nothing but, like, it's empty. There's nothing on it. So you kind of row out to try to figure out what happened there. And then you're kind of armed with this, like, otherworldly pocket watch and a journal. And you find bodies on the ship, and then the pocket watch lets you hear the last few moments of the corpse's life, and then gives you a freeze frame of their death. Which is part of why I think that the art style was chosen, because some of these are pretty brutal. It's like someone getting their head shot off, or getting like squished by a cannon or something. They're pretty rough. There's a early scene that is a person committing suicide. That's not a spoiler or anything. There's 60 people on the ship. And so essentially the goal of the game is to figure out who each of these 60 people are, how they died, and if it's relevant, who killed them. And once you've connected that whole web together, then you've figured it out. And the way that kind of manifests is like the opening thing that you solve is you see the very end of the story, actually. That's like the first part that plays out. And it's all very clearly outlined in the book what the chronology of all this is. Whoa.
Sorry, it's the cat
No, it's
knocking
okay.
something over.
So you'll see, and you can kind of see this in the video a little bit, but you'll find a corpse, and it'll be someone who was shot by the captain of the ship, and you know that this person is the captain of the ship because in the audio you can hear them the person that got killed banging on the door saying, "Captain, Captain, come out." And then you hear a voice respond, and then you hear a gunshot, and then you see this freeze frame of this person's death. So then you can go, okay, well, I know that the person that killed them is the captain. So I look in the list of crew, I find the captain, and I mark that he is that guy. And then you have a face to the name. And I know that the person who died was shot by a gun. So in his entry, I list that he was shot by a gun. But I don't know who the person that died is. So it's that kind of a thing where, you know, there's probably 30 or 40 of these little vignette scenes of, well, I guess there's not actually 60 because there's some question about like how many of those people end up dying and if anyone lives. You know, I don't even know the answer to that, so that's not even a spoiler. But there's all these scenes where there are these people dying, and then the journal kind of gives you a look at who else was there. Do you know those people? And you can sort of click around the journal to link to different characters to sort of try to bookmark them and figure out the identity of these people, how they died, and who killed them. And it's just like, one, the story goes some fucking places. There's a whole range of different things that happens. It's so fun and rewarding to finally get it to click. You go like, oh, well, so I know that this person in the audio from this clip referred to this other person as a steward, and if he's calling him a steward, that must mean he's the first mate's steward, because I know the person talking is the first mate. So if that's the first mate's steward, and he said that that this other guy killed his brother, then I know that the other guy is this person, because I can look at the ledger and see their last names. So it's a lot of that kind of like deductive, like I'm putting the pieces together and figuring out from pretty minor clues in a lot of cases who these different people are and how they relate. But it does a really good job of slowly ramping it up, but like ramping up the difficulty so that you get some kind of easy to figure out ones to sort of understand the way the logic works early on. And then it gives you some very difficult, like, this is a midshipman that was killed, and I don't really have any way to figure out who he is without doing a lot of digging on sort of the peripheral of these scenes. And it's really cool. I think it's awesome and totally worth checking out for anyone who is remotely interested in mystery or adventure. It feels like you're playing through a really, really good mystery novel, which is just so cool.
Awesome. How much is that?
It's a $20 game. I think it's probably about 15 hours is what I've heard to actually get through the whole thing.
Okay.
After about 4 hours, I've seen every vignette that you can get to. There's one chapter that's locked until you finish it, basically. But I have seen all of the others. So it's about 4 hours of like of seeing to see everything, but then you spend another 8 to 10 trying to piece together all these parts. But it doesn't feel tedious. It feels very much like they give you just enough clues to get the next person right. And it does tell you along the way, every time you guess 3 people correctly, it locks them in and confirms them as you're correct. So it's not like you're trying to guess all 60. It's not like a Sudoku puzzle where you're trying to guess all 60 and then the 51st one is wrong, so your whole puzzle starts from scratch again. It doesn't work like that. It's every 3 of them that you guess right, it tells you.
Oh, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
What are the chances that once you discover who all the 60 people are, that the game becomes about you denying insurance claims?
It's very possible. I don't know. I've heard that at the end of the game, this is something that Lucas Pope was saying pretty openly, so I don't think it's a spoiler to say. At the end of the game, you do deliver a claims report that's like, here's my findings as an insurance adjuster. So
start denying claims. I would expect nothing less from the creator of Papers, Please.
I would also say that if there's anyone listening who is a fan of the band The Decemberists, this game is basically The Decemberists, the video game. I have never played a game that is more in tune with the aesthetic that band presents than this game. It's very, very cool.
It sounds interesting. Once I am no longer drowning in studying and despair, I will maybe get to that.
Yeah. I will say that it is. I will content warning it a little bit because there is suicide in it. There is people getting squished. There is people violently killing each other in a lot of different ways. I haven't seen any instances of like sexual assault or anything like that, so I don't think that that's necessarily a factor. But there is a lot of gore and violence, but it's delivered in that art style, so it's pretty easy to stomach largely. And none of the people feel like they're particularly great people, so you don't necessarily feel super bad for them, and you know that they all died coming in. So
Cool. Sam, do you have anything you'd like to share?
So, actually, I remembered. I know I said that I hadn't played any games this week, but I got a new phone, which I'm holding up here. No one can see it. But because I got a new phone, I had to finish Donut County before I got rid of my old one. So I marathoned the last like 2-3 levels of Donut County, and that's like a really, really fun game with a story that I think tries way too hard. I'm sure that there'll be some discussions in our Game of the Year this year about
And there's
Donut
nothing
County.
to discuss.
the discussion is Donut County is the 7th best game of the year. Done. We don't have to talk about it
Discussion is
anymore.
that Donut County is really, really good, and it needs to be in the top 10, but probably not near the top.
Yes. A solid 7th. I don't know what games will fall before and after Donut County, but
Donut County seems like a solid number 10. Anyway, something like that. No, I just don't like I like how online the characters are,
yes.
but like it feels like every interaction is like every dialogue sequence is 3 or 4 times longer than it needs to be.
No.
Like
No, they are perfectly length.
it's all the same joke. Like they don't
Yes!
expand on it.
That's fine. That joke is funny.
Yeah, it's okay.
I'm gonna send a donut to Sam.
Yeah, seriously.
I got to a point where I was like, what if I just continuously press the duck icon? Hopefully these text conversations will stop. And they didn't, so I had to just stop I never pressed the duck icon again.
There's an achievement. I don't know how it works on iOS, but there's an achievement for pushing it 100 times.
I must have done it more than that. Whilst talking to the Trash King, I pressed it for a solid minute just to see if anything would happen, and he never responds.
So I will say that if I have any criticisms of that game, it's that I actually don't think it ever should have become a video game. I think near the end it goes from like 80% of that game, it's not a video game. It's a video. I'm not doing the dumb thing. What I'm saying is it doesn't have a lot of mechanics. Video games or whatever you call a video game. It doesn't have a lot of mechanics. So I like that about it. And then if I have any criticisms of it, it's that I don't like that in the last 20% of the game, it actually like grows some mechanics. But that's a very minor criticism. I actually think that pretty much all of the writing and like story segments are perfect in the context of what it is. So I don't know.
I definitely agree. I thought it was genuinely funny, and there are definitely times where I laughed multiple times in the game. So
what I'm hearing is that Sam's a filthy capitalist.
Sure.
To me,
Donut County this year's Edith Finch?
I knew it would be. I called that coming in.
The gameplay is good in Donut County, so that's where it's different.
There isn't any gameplay. You move a hole around.
Yeah, there isn't any gameplay in that. Anyway,
there isn't any in Edith Finch either.
Let's get real. Donut County is a South Park game with animal characters.
It is way better than South Park.
No. Oh my god.
It is so much funnier than South Park. No, he's not. Take that back.
No.
BK is a treasure.
No. Oh my gosh. I don't have any like real criticisms of this other than no.
Yeah. You're arguing in bad faith. Take that back. Don't say that about my son, BK.
It's a South Park game with BK as Carmen.
Carmen is an irredeemable piece of shit. BK is a lovely boy. He just made some mistakes along the way.
Hey,
He was
BK is
used.
lovable and dumb, and you're just like, oh, BK, let's just be nice. So
Also,
uh,
I've been calling raccoons trash pandas since 2008.
okay, we don't have raccoons here.
How
We
is
just
that
have foxes.
possible? That's so weird. I did not know that about the UK.
I think they need to be in warmer places.
Oh no, trust me, they
no,
live in
Well,
freezing cold temperatures.
They
I
just
live
need
in the
garbage.
Midwest, and there's
Yes,
raccoons here.
there are
We've
plenty
we've
of raccoons in northern Michigan.
If you have garbage, they will come.
Yeah.
I've only ever seen like zoo raccoons. Never a like real raccoon, like a
There are
wild
raccoons
raccoon.
in the zoos there?
The
Yeah.
idea of seeing a raccoon at the zoo is so weird.
It's like seeing a squirrel in the zoo.
Yeah.
Or like an opossum.
Although to be fair, I did have a Japanese exchange student stay with me when I was in like middle school, and she was very excited to see the squirrels. She was like, because they don't have them in Japan
But
apparently.
Andre, you can comment on this. Like in Japan, it's just like every animal that is in the U.S. just has a cuter version there.
Let's see.
Panda.
There's a red panda.
Like
I don't
red
think
pandas
it's
are
not
cuter
native.
versions of
It's
raccoons.
It's not native to Japan, right?
That doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, I have not seen a raccoon in Japan. I don't think, not even in a zoo. They have red pandas. Let's see what else. Yeah, I mean there's like a mascot version of it probably.
Sure.
There's like if there's not a cuter version, they make a cuter version.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Squirrels and all that stuff.
So yeah, I mean, I played Donut County. We talked about that. I played more Dragon Quest XI. My opinion is still that it's a fantastic game and that it's a Disney JRPG. So if you want to play something that's cute and harmless and fun,
Then
I
play
would
Donut
definitely-
County.
I wouldn't call Donut County harmless.
Only people it harms is the Trash King.
Only people it harms are the capitalists.
What if? Well, I mean, yeah, you pay money for Donut County, so isn't that the true capitalism?
You make a very good and salient point, Sam.
Yeah. So like, I don't have too much to talk about when it comes to games. I did finish all of Daredevil season 3 the day it was released yesterday, and I will say that that's a very good season of television.
And it was just cancelled.
I would be shocked if it is not cancelled because they leave it in a very good place for it to just be done. And Luke Cage did not leave it in a good place for it to just be done. It left it on a huge cliffhanger, and so did Iron Fist, and both of them got cancelled. So, yeah, it feels like it feels like with Daredevil that they're setting up to do like a new season with a very familiar starting point, or they are saying, look, everything's great again, everyone's happy, let's end.
It seems like they're setting all of these. The smart move on their part is to set these shows up to be canceled by Netflix or to not renew them themselves and then just remake them or start them again on Disney's streaming service.
I don't think I love Daredevil. I will see more. Like, if Marvel and Netflix make more Daredevil, I will be super happy and I'll watch every season that they put out. But I don't think I'm interested in Daredevil made by anyone else.
Well,
anywhere else? I'm not interested in Daredevil without this cast.
But is that Netflix or is that the production studio that's making Daredevil? Because I know I don't know who I guess casts
Netflix
it and runs it.
Puts a lot of the money in.
Right, sure.
So if it went, a lot of people are saying that Disney's new streaming service won't have adult content, and Daredevil is extremely, extremely adult. Like in all 3 seasons, there is a fake single take fight scene, which is an homage to Old Boy, and in every single one of those, there's a lot of gore and a lot of like bones breaking. Daredevil also totally is hyped to the torture works and is a viable option. methodology, which isn't super fun.
Yeah, that's a little
Um,
weird.
yeah, like watch Daredevil in constantly. Matt Murdock is like, well, I'll just hang people off of roofs and like tie people to stuff and hit them and ask them questions.
I have less of
Uh,
a problem with the hanging off of a roof. I feel like that's Michael Keaton
the
territory,
Batman.
and that's okay. But I don't know about beating people up to get answers from them. That seems a little not 2018 friendly, in my opinion.
That's like every
Yeah.
Batman game is. It's like, oh, find the green guy, beat him up, and then do the thing. And
Yeah,
ask
but
him what
Andre,
other
those are
riddles.
criminals.
Where are the other riddles going?
Tell me where the 24 riddle trophies in this level are.
I would say that maybe
Uh,
perhaps the Arkham games have some problems of their own, but we don't have to talk about that here.
Yeah, Daredevil. Like, I think that they specifically do that a lot in Daredevil to show you that Matt has problems, like that he has very serious anger and rage issues.
Yeah.
That he has no other. That his first port of call is like beat the shit into people. And there's a very explicit point in Daredevil season 3 where everyone's like, Matt, stop beating people up. You're a piece of shit. And he's like, but it works every time. And then he tries to do it the good way, fails, and there's like, well, I guess I'm gonna go beat some people up.
Oh God, that's brutal.
Yeah. So it doesn't like, yeah. I think that they spend a lot more time this season. Like season 2 is all about like how fucked Matt is and like how he's never dealt with being blind, losing his dad, being abandoned by his mother, like all of these horrible things that have happened to him.
Hmm.
And then, does anyone care if I spoil Defenders here?
I mean, I haven't seen it.
So.
Neither have I.
Okay,
well, it's not.
I will not spoil it. The end of Defenders plays massively into Daredevil season 3.
I guess
So
so.
something happens.
I guess that's how I feel. Like I don't know that I buy that the Disney streaming service, maybe the Disney streaming service, as they are planning on launching it, will not have adult content on it. But I feel like
Yep.
whether they call it, you know, this is the Marvel service and you have access to this along with your Disney streaming subscription or something. Like I feel like they're going to have an avenue for you to access that kind of stuff.
That avenue is Hulu, because they own 75% of Hulu.
Yeah, maybe it's Hulu
So-
originals. I don't know, but I don't
Yeah,
think
I
that
think
that,
that's
that
what
these
people are
shows are going to
saying.
go away.
I mean, that's what people are saying, is that Hulu is where Marvel adult content is going to move.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too.
But I don't know why Disney/Netflix would cancel Iron Fist and Luke Cage if they were planning on continuing with those actors on another service without having an announcement about that, if that makes sense.
Because it's petty business stuff.
Yes,
and they're
I
like,
think that's
yeah,
totally why.
it felt very much like petty Netflix going, oh, well, you're taking this away from you. Well, we'll cancel this and have people be mad.
It
Well,
seems
the
like
thing is
sorry.
that Marvel had said that Netflix could keep all 5 shows, 6 shows, and make many more of them as they wanted
Yeah,
until the
and-
license ran out.
and Netflix or Disney keep profiting off of that.
Yep.
They're just like, no, if you're gonna compete with us, we're not gonna make you money.
Yeah, I don't really know. Apparently, Luke Cage fell apart because the showrunners of Luke Cage were like, "We want to make a 10-episode season. We don't want to do 13. We think 10 is perfect." And Netflix were like, "We paid for 13," and basically nobody could make the decision, and so they were like, "It's easier to cancel the show than to go through more and more stages of rewrites." Like, Luke Cage
Silly.
season 3 was like not officially announced as returning, but it like the writers were picking up salaries. They had a full outline for season 3. The showrunner had like started casting characters. It was like massively further into production than any show that was being cancelled would ever get. Probably millions of dollars were spent on Luke Cage season 3.
It's very interesting that this news all came right after it came out that Netflix shares were up,
Yeah.
and then they're like, okay, cool, and now we can just jettison this stuff.
Apparently, the Marvel Netflix stuff, because they pay a hefty fee to Disney, which they don't pay with any of their other Netflix originals, it costs them a lot more to make, and so they have higher expectations for the numbers.
Yep.
I think honestly that we will get a Daredevil season 3 cancellation. I think we'll get that. I don't think we'll see another season of Daredevil. I'm totally fine with where they end it. I would love another season, and I think that the cast that they have there, like Foggy, Matt Murdock, and Karen Page, like specifically Karen and Foggy. Like I love Charlie Cox's Daredevil. I think he's fantastic. I think that he has nailed being blind better than basically any actor I've ever seen. To the point that I specifically have rewatched Daredevil season 1 and 2 a couple of times, and he never looks anyone in the eye. Like even in the most emotional scenes, he like looks off and to the right and things like that. Like he does such a good job of like playing a blind person, and the writing is really good for that as well. Like I mentioned to you guys, I was talking, I was like, oh, one of my favorite scenes in season 2 is when someone talks about how the Daredevil costume is red, and Matt's like, oh, I didn't know.
Right.
Like he has no idea what color the costume is. Like he can do all that shit, he can't see.
I think if it was up to me, I would try to work in a way that I can get those actors, if I'm Disney, bring those
Yes.
actors over to new shows that maybe it's not called Daredevil, maybe it's another show that includes Daredevil and another character or something, like ways to keep those specific iterations of those heroes alive.
Like,
Yeah.
if you were to hire those heroes,
Yeah. I have a Luke Cage Hero for Hire essential graphic novel, which is the first like 30 issues of Luke Cage from the 70s. And one of the most amazing storylines is where Luke Cage is hired by Doctor Doom to beat up the Fantastic Four. And he like takes the job, and then he's like, he like fights all the Fantastic Four, beats them because he's Luke Cage, and then like Doctor Doom's like, I'm going back to Latveria, I'm not paying you. And so Cage like hitchhikes on a plane by sneaking into the luggage, goes to Latveria, beats up Doombots all the way to Doctor Doom's palace, and goes, "Hey bro, you owe me $200." It's all over $200.
That's
And
funny.
Just like
hey,
that's
in
a
like
huge epic journey.
1970s money, that's a lot of money.
It's still great though. It's like, hey man, where's my $200? And Doctor Doom literally just goes, "Yeah, all right," and just hands in the $200, and he like leaves, doesn't find Doctor Doom.
That's
There's
funny.
nothing.
That's good.
It's a great story. It's very modern for the 70s. But yeah, so yeah, if I was them, I would put together a 20-episode series. It comes out every year and is just all 5-6
Exactly.
Marvel Netflix characters.
And maybe
Yeah.
this season is a Daredevil season where Daredevil's got a 6-episode
The main
arc
plot, yeah.
or the main plot, whatever. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense because for someone like me, and I say this having not watched any of the Marvel Netflix stuff, and I know that I need to, but to me, like
Just watch Daredevil.
the best parts of the
Just go
Marvel,
down season 1 too.
I plan
Oh,
to.
just season 1 is the better, actually. Yeah.
I plan to the things that I like most about the Marvel universe are the street level heroes, and and then specifically when those street level heroes get in situations that are a little bit too big for them, which is why my favorite part of the most recent Avengers is the stuff with Spider-Man, because I think that
Yeah.
it's so fun to watch this character that is maybe not really equipped to fight an intergalactic monster, that to like watch him rub shoulders with people that are fighting those monsters. So I think that's really cool, and I hope that they continue to gain more and more control over those characters so that they have the option too of maybe even having characters like that have cameos, whether it's film characters having cameos in the shows or vice versa. I would like to see that a lot as the MCU kind of matures.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to see just more I just want to see more everything. I'm I'm pleased that Daredevil got the treatment it has in in the Netflix show, because like seasons 1 and 3 of Daredevil are very much superhero adaptations of The Wire.
Hmm.
Season 2 tries something it doesn't necessarily pay out, but 3 is very much back to the original format, and it works extremely well for that show.
Hmm.
Everyone is having a very good time. The villains in season 3 are incredible. Very much the same as like season 2 of Luke Cage and Iron Fist. Both had fantastic villains, and villains that very much work with the major characters. In terms of like, yeah, just extremely good. Iron Fist season 2 in particular has a really good villain. Again, a shame that show's been cancelled. I do hope that we get a Hulu Heroes for Hire show. I think taking Luke and Danny over to Disney, maybe having a few episodes to work off their cliffhangers, and then just making Heroes for Hire would be amazing. But yeah, we'll see. Also, the DC Universe app exclusive
Okay,
TV
no,
show.
no,
Yeah,
I'm gonna,
okay,
I'm gonna have to stop
no,
you there.
no,
Nope,
yep.
okay.
Mhm.
It's good. It
No,
shouldn't be good, but
We're,
it's
we're
good.
not. Fuck Batman. We're going
That's it. I
to-
meant fuck Batman, but
uh,
he does say fuck Batman.
You're, yep, okay, that's good. Because yes, fuck Batman. But I've been playing some games.
I have heard that the DC
Sorry, yeah.
Universe app is much better than it should be, but that Titans is still not a good show.
No, it is good. That's the worst part.
Mm,
It should be terrible, but it's actually pretty.
I'm sorry, listeners. I tried.
don't believe it.
We can stop right here. I'll leave it. I'll leave it.
But yeah, so I've been playing some games, not watching Netflix because who has the time, really? So apparently Sam has the time, but he doesn't play games. You know what's he doing?
Life's about choices, and what have you chosen to play in your spare time?
I have played the hot new release, Danganronpa 2.
Dragon Grandpa 2.
Dragon Grandpa 2. I finished Dragon Grandpa 2. That game, it goes some fucking places, man. I was correct. I think last time I said I think the main character does not know what their ultimate ability is, and I said I think I know what it is. I was correct. I didn't know what it was. I did not know how it would get there. That game's fucking wild. It's like so convoluted and up its own ass in like its lore, and like the catalyst for everything that happened is like the worst, most terrible event in human history or something. That's what it's called and referred to as, which is like it's not spoilers, but it's like riots and stuff that have like taken over the entire planet. And then like in the first game, you don't get like, you just hear about it, but you don't like get the details of it. And in the second game, you start to get details of what actually happened and like who caused it, how, and all that stuff. The like last chapter of that game is just like a big info dump and really fucking wild. So if you like really convoluted stories and like weird anime bullshit,
I do.
those you should, and like you can stand like a 30 to 40 hour visual novel.
And I don't think I can.
That's
I don't know
fair.
about that.
That's fair. But if you feel like you can't stand that stuff, I would say there is a lot of like references to like sexual violence in those games, and like in a weird tone, like in a haha, isn't this like this thing this person did to me or like said to me funny and like strange? And it's like, yeah, no, that's like sexual abuse. So like they're really just kind of like off the cuff and like, oh, wacky stuff. And like I appreciate that it has a wacky tone, but like I feel like it could serve to be more serious at times.
I think that's the main thing that's kept me from actually wanting to play those games, is like the concept is really interesting to me, but the tone of Monokuma specifically is super distasteful to me.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the point
yeah, I
with
know,
the
but
character, but yeah, I can totally see how that is. Uh, there's like one of the things Monokuma says is like, I'm going to roll a dice, and whatever number comes up, I'm going to give you that many sex change operations.
that's so weird and fucked
What?
up.
What?
Yeah.
And like, so this game came out in 2012, and also it's a Japanese made game. So like, culture very different back in 2012 and in Japan in regards to like sexual abuse
Yeah,
and
it's
like
also
and that
that.
kind of stuff. And like that's also like the localizers and
Yeah,
and the way they're choosing to portray that stuff. So like, yeah, there's like a lot of things that go into that, and if you don't want to deal with any of that stuff, I totally get that.
yeah.
But yeah, so I plan to play Danganronpa 3 coming up. It's on sale right now, so I have to buy that because it hasn't gone on sale really. It seems like because I've been looking at least recently. But I wonder how much of that is still present and still like the way the series handles that stuff,
Hmm.
or if
Mm.
it's been changed, like and been more tactful.
Yeah, yeah. It's a weird. That's just that series has a weird mystique to
Yeah.
it, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, I've been vaguely considering trying to pick it up, especially since the news that the person behind Danganronpa and Zeroscape are doing their own thing now, and I'm like, maybe I should play Danganronpa, but I've just never quite.
They're just making Danganronpa.
I mean, true, but like I still want to play it because I love
Yeah.
Zeroscape
No,
so much. But yeah,
it's definitely you got that Vita, right? So
that I do.
I don't know if V3 is on Vita, but
It is, yeah.
uh,
All three are.
okay. But it's been 6 years since 2 came out, and so 3 came out this year. So yeah, I'm very curious to see where that goes. And yeah, because Alex said a lot of really positive things about it. So and I think I touched on it last week, but just again, when I played the first one, I was like annoyed that like my choices or like I couldn't have any impact on what the story was. It was just the story just played out, and I didn't like know that going in. I didn't really know what to expect, and so knowing that going into the second one, it was just much more enjoyable. I was like, okay,
Sure.
well, I'm just gonna see whatever happens, and I'm here to enjoy the story, not create and like make my own story. But yeah, that game goes some places. So I'm really curious to see what the third one is. And speaking of second games in a series, I played episode 1 of Life is Strange 2, which that game starts off swinging for the fences. I don't think it makes it to the fences or beyond, but I think it starts out really going for it. So it is not a direct tie-in to Life is Strange 1. It is its own story. There is a brief throwaway reference to the first game that I don't even know why it's there, other than go, hey, remember the first game? So yeah, I don't know why they even bothered to put that in, but it's a game about America today. It takes place in 2016. I think it's like October of 2016. I think because like if you look through the main character's phone, there are like references to like the debates, for like the presidential debates, and like how they're just like, what the fuck is happening? And you're playing a high schooler with your younger brother who is like 9, I want to say 9, 11, somewhere in there, and events transpire while you are home one day, and which force you to have to leave your home, basically run away, and start walking for you don't know where. You're just trying to get away as far away from Seattle as they can, which leads them into the wilds of Washington, which, hey, if you're a Mexican like teenager kid, probably not a great place to be. alone. That game has it's got a lot to say. I don't know if it's totally successful in saying everything it's trying to say yet. It's hard to hard to say just one episode in. But I'm curious to see how it continues. But I was a little disappointed in the way they implemented the choice where they ask you, "Oh, did you save the town or destroy the town in Life is Strange 1?" Because it really doesn't matter.
Might matter later.
I don't think so. I mean, it might, but based on what happens in the first episode, I don't think it will. I think it's really it's like a set dressing thing, basically. So you get some glimpses of like the supernatural stuff going on in the first episode, but it doesn't like manifest mechanically. Like in the first episode of Life is Strange 1, you get those powers pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
And like you're still trying to figure out how to use them and stuff, and it's like, you don't use them all the time, but you are pretty often in that first episode, but you are not using powers basically at all. But so it seems like the second episode is going to tie into the Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit stuff.
I would assume by episode 2 you're probably moving into Oregon, so that would make some sense.
You end in Oregon, yes, at the end of the first episode. And it changes to winter at the end. So, you were not very near the place where Captain Spirit takes place.
It's a video game.
But I mean, they put in like the geography.
Yeah,
they make references to like the cities and stuff. So I mean, they're on like a weird hitchhiking road trip, so they're gonna end up where they end up, however they can. But it's a weird choice. They could have done it in like they could have done it anywhere, and the way they have chosen to like place the characters and stuff seems just odd. Because if I remember correctly, Captain Spirit takes place like outside Portland, which is pretty far north in Oregon, and you end in the northern part of Oregon, but not super far north, as far as I can tell. So it's kind of like backtracking a little bit.
Interesting.
But yeah, that's me being from Oregon, going like, "Hey, wait a minute."
Yeah, I mean, living in Seattle, I'm very interested to see how they handle a lot of regional politics, because there are a lot of regional politics in Western Washington that I think a lot of people just assume it's a liberal utopia from other parts of the country, whereas there's actually a lot of stuff going on here even in 2018. So I'm excited to see how that is handled and portrayed, because I've heard it is done in a responsible, good way. So
my biggest criticism is I think it moves too fast. Like they're in these small bite-sized episodes, but I would have liked to have seen like another hour on this episode just kind of setting things up. Because I feel like the opening might have hit a bit harder if they had more time setting it up. Maybe.
I wonder how much
nice to see that.
They kind of made it clear in the marketing that the story is you're these two brothers on the run, or whatever, on the run, however you want to characterize it. But so obviously something tragic happens to the family, and I almost wonder, I'm very prepared for that tragic thing to happen going in, and I wonder if maybe they would have been better served to have not been as clear as to what the journey is, sort of to make that more surprising.
Yeah, I didn't pay a ton of attention to the marketing, and I wasn't thinking a ton about the game, so I just kind of was playing it, and I was like, oh, yeah, wow, that's a way to open your game.
Yeah.
I think it just would have I think there would have been more emotional impact for me if they had spent more time actually setting up the characters, and because there are a lot of characters that I'd love to get to know. and spend some time with, and then if they were taken away, be like, oh shit, I really liked spending time with this person. And they give you a little bit of that, but not enough to like really. 'Cause, I mean, you're the start of the game. You're in like an established life, but you don't really get time to like experience that established
Makes
life.
sense. Yeah.
So yeah,
It
it
does
felt like
seem
they needed a little more setup to really pull me in.
part of why season one works so well is because you're taking control of a character that is establishing their new life.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you're kind of joining the setting alongside them. So it's very much like everyone you're meeting, they're meeting for the first time too.
yeah. And like same with like Telltale Walking Dead, uh, stuff like season one at least. I played season two too, and so that you're going through and you're in this new situation and meeting new
Yeah.
people. But it'll I'm. It seems like you're not going to be spending like a lot of time with the same characters throughout this season. Maybe like as it gets further in, maybe you will be. But like the first episode, I don't expect to see any of those characters again. I don't expect to see most of the characters from like episode two. If it is like a tie into Captain Spirit, I don't expect to be spending like an obscene amount of time with those characters.
I mean,
So I think it's hard with like a road trip story to develop characters that stick around and are like recurring,
if the
besides
mission
like the main characters.
if this game serves a purpose of, I mean, I don't think this necessarily is what they're trying to do at its core, but like if the game ends up being a story about these two characters that are marginalized going through the parts of the country that the rest of the world thinks are the liberal utopias in this country and seeing what they actually are,
Mhm.
I think that's pretty valuable. I think that could be a really powerful story and a really
Yeah,
cool
yeah, yeah.
way to sort of, I don't know. I'm interested to see how the story continues, and I do want to play it before sooner rather than later because I think it sounds very, very interesting.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. I think there is value in that. It's just like spending because the episodes are so short, and so they have to move through each event so quickly. So
Right.
it feels like it's hard to like really get into. It's like maybe a surface level in a way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it maybe by the time like episode five comes out, I'll feel better or feel different about the whole thing. But
Yeah, as long as it's trying to present a surface level that's somewhat accurate to the
yeah,
spaces
yeah,
they're working in, which it sounds like with the Seattle, the first episode they do. So, yeah.
yeah, it seems like they're doing like a good job in there presenting a world that is more or less true to life.
Hmm.
At least based on like my worldview and what I have experienced
Hmm.
and seen and read and yada yada. So yeah, I think they're like trying to tell a meaningful story, and I think it's a story that is worth telling. I just wish maybe there was
More setup.
they had a more setup, and like they could dive into it more and spend
Hmm.
more time with it.
Yeah.
And like maybe it doesn't need to be a 30-hour thing. Maybe 3 to 4 hours per episode is fine. But it's just frustrating when you're like, but I wish we could have done more here. And I'm
Yeah.
sure the devs wish they could have spent more time on stuff too. But yeah, that's a game people should check out.
Cool.
Cool.
Sounds cool.
Is there any other things, condiments, non-DC TV shows people want to talk about?
I don't know. I played. If you're looking for spooky stuff to play, I finished that Conarium game I talked about.
Mm.
That game has a bad ending, I think, but it's a fun game to play through and see through. So I still recommend it, the ending notwithstanding. I also think that people, if they haven't, should play Alan Wake because that's a weird game.
That game is so bad. The PC port is not good.
We're playing it again on PC. It's been fine in big picture mode.
Mm.
Um, I think it had more problems than they actually worked on patching it a lot longer than you would think they did. I think on
Mm.
release it was definitely pretty broken on PC, but it's a weird, interesting game. It holds up in some ways and also doesn't in others that I think is. I still don't think anyone has created a episodic game that feels as much like a big budget TV show as that game,
Mm.
which is a kind of cool presentation method. And I think that the story is still very interesting to kind of uncover. And the gameplay is not bad. The gameplay is very, very serviceable and not a chore, I think.
Hmm.
It's not very
Cool.
scary in 2018, though, I will say.
Did you finish Little Nightmares, Allison?
No, I don't know. I'm considering trying to go back to it, but I just got kind of, I don't know, burnt out from it. I feel like I got to the point where I was like, yeah, I get it. But we'll see.
Sure. I'd recommend, I've said it before, but Until Dawn, one of my favorite horror games.
Oh,
Probably my
yes.
favorite horror game.
Probably, maybe
there.
one of the best horror games.
Yes. It's nice because it just goes,
Mhm.
regardless of like what if you screw up, it still goes. There's no like, oh, you gotta redo this part.
Yep.
So it doesn't lose the like, okay, I know what's going to happen, so it's less scary. Now I'm just gonna run through this part because I know what's coming. I know what I need to do. And then also I have Alien Isolation installed. I've had it installed since it came out, but I've only played 3 hours of that game, and I need to go back to it sometime. But apparently it's like 20 to 30 hours, and I don't have time for that.
I played about 20 minutes of that game. Alien is my favorite film of all time, and I started that game and then got very scared and stopped playing it.
Yeah, it's about horror games is you have to make things go. It doesn't go by itself.
I'm much more equipped to play horror games now, though. I actually have played
Uh-huh.
through several since then, so I do plan to play it eventually because I think I can get through it.
It's a fascinating game.
Yes, it very much is. Yeah.
With like the alien AI and stuff. Like every time I read about that, I'm like, man, that's really cool.
And it's an example of a licensed game that like actually tells an interesting story that is worth seeing if you're a fan of the IP, because it's like
Yeah,
a story that has not been told in any of the other fiction, but that actually stands up to some of the best of what that series offers from a story standpoint, from what I understand. So
hmm and it's there was something else I was gonna say. I totally forgot.
Oh,
Uh,
also people should watch Mandy if you can handle some
Oh, I need to see that.
heavy
Oh, yeah.
violence. It's a
Oh,
very
now I remember
violent
what-
movie.
I was going to say the only Alien films I have seen are Alien and Prometheus.
Frankly, those are two of the best.
Wow, that is a hot take.
I like Prometheus way more than most people do, but also Alien is as good as that series gets. It never reaches the.
Okay, so you're an Alien, not Aliens guy. Okay.
I think Aliens
I've
is
seen
actually
this,
kind of overrated.
I tried to watch Aliens and I fell asleep before any action happened.
I like Lance Hendrickson a lot, and I like the movie Aliens, but I would not put Aliens. I would say Alien is my favorite movie ever, and I would not put Aliens in my top 10. Put it that way.
Okay. Wow. It's a good fucking movie. Anyway, no one else has anything they'd like to share?
You doing anything spooky, Sam?
No, I don't like horror. I'm going to
Dress
a
up.
wedding on Halloween.
Oh,
Dress
okay.
up a mechanical. Is there gonna be a mechanical bull at that wedding?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Probably
But that
not.
would be a fun wedding activity. I feel
I'm really upset that we didn't think of this before Sam's wedding, so we could have rented a mechanical bull.
Remotely and sent it to Sam's wedding? How does that
Yeah.
work?
No, I don't. Yeah, it's just that could. We
that
were
works
gonna
by-
buy. We thought about
Hmm.
buying you a copy of What Remains of Edith Finch, like a collector's edition, physical copy, and
Oh,
sending
as
it
a
to you
wedding gift. We did
present.
think about that. We never did it. Damn it.
That is kind of
Uh,
sad we didn't.
We should have done that. I forgot we had that thought.
Yeah,
None of you have my address. Suck it.
Well, yeah, no, yeah, we were considering like, okay, how are we gonna do this without it being weird? I think didn't. Well, I don't know. This
Someone
not-
had a way to send it to you digitally somehow, like Eric or I don't know. So we were
Yeah.
then
Yeah,
gonna
I
buy it
remember.
digitally. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
the idea morphed into we'll buy it on Humble and like give the tip to charity or something and then send it to you. I don't remember.
something,
That
yeah,
makes sense.
for to donate in your name to charity and give you what remains of Edith Finch in return.
Yeah.
Good.
But
Yeah.
it's going to be to the Mechanical Bull Writers for Needy Europeans Fund. Mechanical Bulls for Needy Europeans, yeah. Anyway, that is going to do it for episode 42 of Gaming Fix on this Saturday or Sunday, October 20th.
Sunday too for me.
21st. This has been a long one.
Mhm.
We really went off the rails there.
It's
Talking
under
about
2 hours.
mustard.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, we're right on time.
This is a spicy brown podcast. If I
Yeah.
ever
Hour and
heard
45
one.
minutes. That's a good.
That's good, spicy brown.
Yes.
So yeah, you please like and subscribe on your podcast app of choice. Leave us a review on iTunes. You can't review on Google. What the hell, Google? But like us on Facebook, Gaming Fix, and that will do it for us. Allison, where can people find you?
People can find me on Twitter at WRITERSERENYTY, or they can. I haven't been on Twitch in a while, but I will probably be streaming more on Twitch at Happy Beeps here.
Happy Beesphere.
You're gonna keep saying it wrong, and nobody's gonna find me on Twitch.
Happy Beep Sphere, aka BB-8.
Yeah, actually, that's not inaccurate.
Right? Wait, okay. Wait,
I
yeah,
assumed
okay.
that's what it was. That's what the
No,
name
that's
is
what
referencing.
it's 100%
It's referencing BB-8. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say that's inaccurate.
God,
I was
Andre,
like,
aren't
what?
you even friends with Allison? You don't know?
No. That's why I was. I thought when she said I thought she would be like, that's inaccurate. And she's like, I didn't even think of that. So
Kidding.
yeah,
I'm kidding.
Sharing it for the others, for the listeners who might not know Allison very well. So yeah, Allison loves BB-8.
Allison, like all good
I do.
people, loves BB-8.
True. I stand by that.
Thumbs up with a lighter or whatever.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Where can people find you?
Me?
Yeah, where,
Oh.
you.
Yeah.
I didn't. Okay, so you can find me on Twitter at JesterPC. I'll be sliding into Jim Harbaugh's DMs and all up in Mark Antonio's mentions for the next week.
I don't.
They're football
Okay.
coaches.
Okay.
It's a
Okay.
football thing. Don't worry about it.
All right.
That
You
joke was
should-
funny to someone somewhere.
You should read that story I posted in our chat about Phil Knight and the University of Oregon. It's all about like the football program.
I
and
know a lot
how
about that story already, but I will read it to see
It's-
what their angle
it's-
is.
It's there's a book coming out, and that's
Yep.
like I think it's like an excerpt from the book. It's real something, and just
Yep.
like more so about college in general, like college academics and sports in general.
Yep.
Yeah, that's something. And Sam, where can people find you and all your opinions about things DC and Marvel?
Yeah, I think the best place to find me is Instagram. That's where I spend the majority of my time. You can see my sumo deadlift PR, which I've recorded and put up on there. I was very happy about that. 110 kilograms. That doesn't mean anything to you, Imperials.
How many stone is that?
I don't know how many stone are in a kilogram.
Because
That's,
nobody knows.
It's because stone are
Fake
also
measurement.
imperial.
It's like how many horses does it weigh, or something like that?
Yeah, it's
That's
how many
stone.
horsepower is that?
Yeah. How many hands? How many hands can you lift?
So it's 17.3 stone is 110 kilograms.
He looked it up. We gave him too much time to look it up.
Yeah, sorry. At my heaviest weight, I was just under 16 stone. So that's more than the heaviest I've ever been. So that's a good time. Yeah, so just follow me on Instagram. My Instagram's at SGCH. So am I on every other channel that you can look for. But Instagram's the one I actually update. My cats have an Instagram too. It's pretty good.
I realized a week and a half ago I wasn't following Sam on Twitter.
I saw you follow me and was like, piece of shit.
Yep. That's an appropriate reaction. I thought I was, if it makes you feel any better.
Yeah, I also thought you were. I feel like I'm not PlayStation friends with either Erica or Allison, but I
I don't
can't
know if I
remember.
am. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's weird.
I don't add anyone on anything. I feel like people should have to opt into my bullshit.
If anybody
Yeah,
wants to
I'm
add
not
me
adding
on Xbox
people too,
Live,
so it's kind of.
Because you all play so many multiplayer games. I guess it was
I
same plays
play
Destiny.
Destiny
but
every
that's
week.
really-
excuse me, I've played a lot of Black Ops 4 this week, so
No,
I don't want to hear it.
I meant
I was thinking about
specifically
buying
Sam,
Black
Ops. Oh,
Erica,
okay.
and Allison.
Yeah, I don't play multiplayer games very often. Although I did just install Overwatch on my PC, so
Yeah, we should play
Ooh.
Overwatch.
yeah.
Everyone in Gaming Fiction install Overwatch on their PC and play Overwatch.
I don't have time.
Or one of us buys Jackbox 5 and we all stream it together.
We
That
should
would
do
be fun,
that
too.
actually
We
for
should
real.
also
That'd
do
be really
that.
fun.
I almost said let's do it tonight, but then it's like almost 1 a.m.
Yeah.
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 Speaking of being 1
Yeah.
a.m., let's end this podcast. You can find me on Twitter at Coolslaw COOLSL4W. And maybe we'll have a guest in the near future. So yeah, maybe look forward to that. And just try and figure out a good time for them to come on. So a little teaser of what's to come on Gaming Fix. Have a good life, everybody.
Yes.
If we don't hear from you, we love you. So long.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.